My father said it without even looking up from his plate. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, you don't need that office. Ryan, your brother needs it more, asterisk. I didn't argue. I didn't slam a door. I didn't cry. I just said, okay. And I meant it. What I didn't tell them was what okay actually meant. Because 2 weeks later, the lights went out. And for the first time in 5 years, it wasn't my problem, asterisk, asterisk. My father said it the way he said most things that cost him. Nothing, casually, confidently, between bites of dinner. Asterisk, Ryan, your brother needs a proper workspace now. He and Sarah are expecting. You're single, you've got no real obligations. You don't need that whole studio to yourself, asterisk. I was 29 years old. I had a forensic accounting business with 4 active clients and a server. Rack that cost more than his car. I had spent $32,000 and 7 months of weekends transforming the detached garage behind my parents' house into a soundproofed, climate-controlled, fiber-connected professional workspace. And in 3 sentences, my father had just volunteered it to my brother and his pregnant girlfriend. Like it was a spare umbrella. I set down my fork. I looked at him. And I said, asterisk, okay. The table went quiet. My mother blinked. My brother Connor looked surprised, then relieved, then immediately guilty about being relieved. Sarah, his girlfriend, looked at her hands. They had expected resistance. They had loaded their arguments like ammunition. Asterisk, it's just temporary. Family makes sacrifices. You're so lucky you don't have a baby to think about, asterisk. They had the whole script ready, and I had just walked off the stage. What none of them understood was this. Okay wasn't agreement. Okay was the opening move of something much longer. Let me tell you what that garage actually was. Because this isn't just a story about a room. When I moved back home at 25, fresh out of a bad lease and a worse business partnership, my parents said it was temporary. 6 months, maybe. Get back on your feet. I appreciated it. I was grateful. So I started contributing quietly. The electric bill first, because it was the most obvious. Then the internet, because the router was from 2009 and I needed bandwidth for client work. Then the roof repair, because Dad kept saying he'd handle it and the ceiling in the hallway was starting to bow. Then the water heater. Then the landscaping. Then the emergency credit card I gave Mom so she could buy groceries without calling me every time she ran short. I never announced any of it. I just absorbed it, the way you absorb a draft in a room with a bad window. You stop noticing. It becomes part of the temperature of your life. And the garage, my studio, that was mine. I paid for every square foot of it. Soundproof panels on every wall. A standing desk with dual monitors. A server rack bolted to the floor. High-speed fiber running from the street directly to that building, bypassing the house entirely. I even installed a mini split so I could control the temperature without arguing with anyone about the thermostat. It smelled like fresh wood and cold air in silence. It was the only place on the property where nothing was asked of me. The dinner where everything changed was a Thursday in September. Connor and Sarah had come over with news. Everyone knew it was big news because Mom had made her good chicken, the one with herbs from the garden, and Dad had opened actual wine instead of the box stuff he kept on the fridge. Sarah was pregnant. 12 weeks. They were glowing in that particular way that people glow when they are. Terrified but performing happiness for an audience. I was genuinely happy for them. Connor was going to be a father. That was real and it mattered. But then the glow shifted direction. And I felt it before the words came. Dad started talking about space. About how Connor's apartment lease was ending. About how Sarah couldn't climb stairs comfortably much longer. About how the main house had that big bedroom on the ground floor. And then, like a ship turning slowly in a harbor, his attention drifted to me. Asterisk, the studio in the garage would be perfect for them. They need space for the nursery. A place to work from home. Room for the baby's things. You can set up in the spare room upstairs. Ryan, it's got a window, asterisk. The spare room upstairs was where Mom kept her craft supplies. A broken treadmill and 17 years of Christmas decorations. Asterisk, Dad. Asterisk, I said carefully. Asterisk, I run my business out of that garage. I have client files, servers, a dedicated internet line. It's not just a room, asterisk. Asterisk, you can work from anywhere. Asterisk, he said. Asterisk, you're on a laptop half the time. Asterisk. Asterisk, the servers aren't on a laptop. Asterisk. Asterisk, we'll figure it out. Asterisk, Mom said. Which in our family meant, we have decided. And now we are waiting for you to stop talking. Connor looked at me across the table. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Asterisk, Ryan, we don't want to push you out. If it's a problem, asterisk. Asterisk, it's fine. Asterisk, I said. And I picked up my wine glass. Asterisk, you need the space. The baby comes first. I'll have it cleared out by the 1st of the month, asterisk. My mother exhaled with relief. My father nodded like I had finally said something sensible. Connor and Sarah exchanged a look that contained an entire conversation. I drank my wine. It tasted like rust and old habits. But I was already thinking about square footage and lease terms and how fast. I could get a moving company on the phone. I found an apartment 2 days later. 14th floor of a building downtown with a gym, a doorman, and windows that faced east so I got the morning light. The rent was more than I wanted to spend. I signed the lease anyway. I didn't tell anyone. I told them I was moving my equipment into a storage unit to make the transition easier. They heard what they wanted to hear. Over 8 days, I quietly dismantled my life on that property. The servers went first, into a climate-controlled unit near my new apartment. Then the monitors, the filing cabinets, the networking equipment. I hired movers on a Tuesday morning, while the family was at Connor and Sarah's gender reveal lunch. I sent a text saying I was swamped with a client deadline. Nobody questioned it. The administrative work took one evening. I sat at my desk. The one Connor's girlfriend had said she wanted to replace with a nursing chair. And I opened every account I managed for the household. Electric bill transferred to Dad's name. Internet downgraded from the business fiber plan. I paid $4 to a basic residential package registered under Mom's email. Landscaping service canceled with a note thanking them for their work. The emergency credit card reported lost. Account closed. Every streaming subscription I paid for canceled or transferred. Every auto pay with my bank account attached removed. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was simply returning the household to the condition it had been in before I arrived. That was the thing they had forgotten. There was a before. The house had existed without me. They had managed, after a fashion. Before I started quietly holding everything together. I swept the garage floor on my last evening there. It echoed. I left the key on the kitchen counter with a note on a post-it. Asterisk, all yours. Good luck, asterisk. I didn't say goodbye. I got in my car at 7 in the morning and I drove to my new apartment and I stood at the east-facing window with a cup of coffee and watched the sun come up over a city that didn't know my name or need anything from me. It was the best morning I could remember in years. The first text came 11 days later. Mom, asterisk, the Netflix isn't working. Did you change something? I waited 4 hours. Asterisk, I canceled my account when I moved out. You'll need to set up your own, asterisk. Then asterisk, wait, moved out. We thought you were just staying at a friend's, asterisk. Asterisk, no, I got an apartment. The spare room wasn't going to work for the business. Congratulations on the baby. Asterisk. She didn't respond for 2 days. Dad called about the lawn. I told him I'd canceled the landscaper and that a new mower was available at the hardware store en route. 9. He called me ungrateful. I told him I was busy and hung up gently. Connor texted once. Asterisk, hey, did you really move out? Asterisk, I replied. Asterisk, yeah, needed my own space. Hope the garage works out for you guys. Asterisk, he sent back a thumbs up. Then nothing. I watched Sarah's Instagram. She posted a reel of the garage, calling it their new family creative space. The lighting was wrong. The Wi-Fi on the downgraded residential plan didn't reach the detached building properly. The comments asked if it was a shed. She posted it twice with different filters. The second version did worse than the first. By October, Connor was working from the main house because the connection in the garage kept dropping. By November, the heating oil for the detached building had become a source of genuine financial stress. Dad called twice about the water heater making noises. I told him to search the model number on YouTube. He called me cold. I told him I was just busy. The frost came early that year. I was at my desk on the 14th floor, 2 monitors running, a client audit open on the left screen, and a cup of actual good coffee on the right, when my phone lit up at 11:15 on a Tuesday night. Mom, Dad, Connor, then Sarah. I answered Sarah's call. Her voice was thin and shaking in a way that had nothing to do with performance. Ryan, the power is out. It's freezing in here. Connor tried to run 3 space heaters off 1 circuit and something shorted, and now the whole garage is dark and I'm pregnant. And I'm cold and I don't know what to do. I told her where the breaker panel was. I walked her through it, step by step, calm and clear, the way I would talk a client, through an unfamiliar spreadsheet, professional, present, helpful, in the ways that cost me nothing. I did not offer to pay the reconnection fee on the main house. I did not call an electrician. I did not open my banking app. Is it working? I asked. The garage is back, she said quietly. But the main house has a disconnect notice. Ryan, your dad didn't pay the electric bill. He said he thought it was on autopay. It was, I said. On my autopay. I removed it when I moved out. Silence. I didn't know, she said finally. I didn't know you were doing all of that. I know, I said. Nobody did. Get some rest. Sarah, it's late. I hung up. I sat for a moment in the quiet of my apartment. The city hummed 14 floors below, somewhere across town. My family was sitting in a cold house, figuring out how to pay an electric bill for the first time in 5 years. I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction exactly. Not guilt either. Something quieter. The particular piece of a person who has finally stopped running toward a fire that was never theirs to put out. I finished the audit. I invoiced the client. I poured a small glass of expensive whiskey and stood at my east window in the dark, watching the city lights hold steady against the cold. They would be okay. Or they would learn to be. Either way, I had done my part. For 5 years, I had done my part. Now I was just a man on a high floor in a city that asked nothing of me. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, that was exactly enough.